My name's Caleb Harper. I am the founder of the MIT City Farm inside of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. I'm here today presenting on my work there, as well as the Open Ag project. I want them to feel like they can get involved. In the type of growing that I do, it's called control environment agriculture or building integrated ag. And it sounds very complicated, and some of the things that I do use are pretty complex. But starting, if you're interested, just start hacking. That's the MIT motto. We say demo or die. If you want to grow something, get out there and try to grow it. And the methods for aeroponics, hydroponics that I use can be made very simple. You can make them at any hardware store, if you just get out there and try to do it. It varies by country. Right now, if you look around the world, about 80% of it is food insecure. We happen to be sitting in a country that's quite secure in food, as well as the United States. However, if you look at a country like Singapore, imports something like 70% of its own food. You look at Japan, same picture. Qatar, 90% of its own food. China, having problems with pollution and growing its own food. So I think around the world, we're starting to feel the pinch of both climate change as well as pollution, as well as water depletion, groundwater depletion. So I think this is important work for that. The vision of the future that we're working on now is how do cities produce more of what they consume. Obviously they'll never produce all of it. For systems like ours and the space that we're working in, you're looking at anything that's created like pick fresh, eat fresh items, so like tomatoes, peppers, things that suffer from transportation. So you'll see about 40% of your diet in maybe the next 20 years coming from the city that you live in. 40 to 50%, and 50% coming from conventional agriculture. Your commodities, your rice, wheat, soy, corn, those things will be coming still from the conventional sources, and that's what they're really good at. But if you think about something like a tomato, the tomatoes that you get in the store that are produced industrially are picked green so that they can ripen in shipping, right? And that sounds like a great idea because it comes to you and it didn't suffer from transportation. But that green tomato has about half the nutrient density that it was meant to have at maturity. But why don't the farmers leave it on the vine? They don't leave it on the vine because if they tried to ship that ripe thing to you, they'd have a big pile of pasta sauce, right, by the time that it came to the city. So that's one thing that makes sense to be grown at the point of consumption. One of them is strictly water use. I think the USDA put out a report 2 days ago that the severe droughts in California will have long and lasting implications on all of North America's food supply. I mean, that between California and Florida, those are our fresh fruits and vegetable supplies, right? So I think water use will be a huge implication. We can save about, I think it's 60 or 70% of the water, fresh water in the world goes to agriculture. So we can save a lot of that water as is becoming an issue now. Dietary implications, being able to get really healthy food that has no chemicals and no pesticides and is extremely high in nutrient density right in your city. I mean, think about the way that most people that live in big cities shop. You may have 2 or 3 stores that are more on the outskirts serving the suburban neighborhoods, but typically in downtowns you have little convenience stores. And so if you're able to supply higher density nutrient rich produce in the heart of the city, that'll change a lot. I mean, childhood obesity, the rise in diabetes. So I think health implications, water implications are 2 big places to start. We're anti-disciplinary, first of all. My team is composed of aeronautical engineers, environmental, industrial, mechanical engineers, computer scientists, plant scientists, architects, urban planners. We're all looking together to solve this picture of food. So in doing that, there's 2 ways that our industry is going right now. Well, there's really only one way, which is black box. People are creating solutions, trying to capitalize that solution, keep everything extremely private, and make business models out of that. And that is great and really driving the growth in the boutique markets. What I'm really passionate about is feeding cities. And so to do that, I want to get the word out. So we're starting to make all of our technology open source. We're looking at open source technology and open data, which just means that the things that we're going to be developing in the Media Lab, we're going to make available to everyone under a Creative Commons license. So why are we doing this? Why does data matter in agriculture in general? If you go to the internet right now, I get emails every day. You know, Caleb, how do I best grow moringa in Africa, you know, under my climatic conditions? And I have no idea. But the point of it is I'm getting these emails every other day because there is no clear source of information on the internet about growing food, right? It's very, very opaque. And when you get into the cutting edge research that's being done in conventional ag schools, you know, a lot of the times their supporters and sponsors have IP agreements with them, you know, or non-disclosures or non-competes. And so some of that information can't come out into the public venue. So on a project like ours that's focused about open source technology, open data gathering, we're really hoping to build what we're considering like the first online ag tech research collective and make that all of that agricultural data, you know, rich for the data commons for everyone to use. I think we've become very separated from our food. So, you know, I had an event at the Media Lab recently where I brought out all the produce that I had created in our little lab, which is enough to feed about 200 people in, let's say, 3 meters by 4 meters of space in the Media Lab. So it was the first time that many of them had ever removed roots from their food. You know, this is the first time in their life because, you know, since in my generation, you know, we have a constant supply of food at the grocery store, right? We just go in, we pick it up, we don't really give a thought to where it's coming from, and we have no idea how to grow it. So our removal from that process has been gradual, but has been constant. So now when people are trying to say, okay, let's get back into growing, very few people know where to start, and they go looking on the internet for answers. And there is a groundswell, an organic groundswell of people coming together and getting that information out. The problem is it's all coming from different sources, different climates, you know, different conditions that are non-comparable. So if you're trying to get information about how to grow in Boston, and you're looking at somebody in South America, or you're looking at somebody in Arizona, it's really not going to be helpful to you at all. You know, the problems that you'll face will be very different. So with the Open Ag project, what we're trying to do is create a baseline for data collection and a methodology for that, of sharing, which is shocking that it doesn't exist. You know, you can't go online right now to Plant Wikipedia, put in what you want to grow and figure out how to do it. You know, if you want to figure out what I'm doing and you want to say, okay, well, I want to use LED lights and I want to use some sensors, some basic stuff, you know, and I want to use hydroponics. It could take you a long time to figure out how to do it well because people are hiding it. And they're hiding it for good reason, you know, to make businesses out of it. But I think that some of these fundamental things are so, I don't know, so common now. You know, hydroponics and to some degree aeroponics should be open source technology for them to take that system and innovate on it. And so that's what we're trying to do. Definitely. So food waste is a huge issue. And if you think about it, the problem is that our mentality now is grow it there, you know, wherever there is, and eat it here, you know, in the city. So one of our most simple messages is grow it here and eat it here. You know, you're not going to suffer the same food miles. You know, I was just recently looking, there's a great diagram if you Google World Food System, I think it'll be first thing on images that comes up, that shows the net importers and exporters of food in the world. And when you look at this incredibly complex web, you wonder what happens when some of the string connections, the very tenuous connections, start to get severed. This would be an interesting moment to talk a little bit about global food security in a conceptual level. We have a lot of countries that aren't able to feed their national food, their citizens, right? And so what do? They go out into other countries and make food colonies. You see this a lot in Northern Africa. You see this a lot in Brazil. You know, foreign countries buying up land to feed their national population. Well, I think in the last 60 years, 40% of the civil wars have been fought around natural resources. So what starts to happen when our food supply shifts to, you know, outside of your country is that there will have to be a militarization of food, which is a very scary thought, but it is really not in the far future for us. So rather than going that route of outsourcing all of our food to other countries, which often those countries are quite food insecure themselves, we should be thinking about how are we producing more of it in our countries? How are we producing it more in our cities? Knowing that in the next 25 years, 75% of us, 80% in Canada, will be living in a city. We should be really thinking about what are the waste streams of the city, what are the flows of the city, and food is primary to that. We are currently looking for industry partnerships and government partnerships to join the Open Ag movement, partner with MIT, build some of these farms around the world. We're imagining there's a thing called Fab Labs, if you're familiar with Fab Labs. So Fab Labs are an initiative out of MIT that started a while ago, where they took some of the digital equipment that we were working on, the CNC mills, the laser cutters, the 3D printers, and they started putting them in little groups all over the world to just start innovation, right? They were like seeds of change. And that's really where MIT City Farm is right now, and we're looking for partners for those seeds of change. How do we drop the same technology, the exact same stuff that I'm working on with my team, in different places around the world, have them come up with contextual solutions. They're not going to be interested in growing the same thing I grow in Boston, in Abu Dhabi. They have very different desires, but, between government partnerships, industry partnerships, and academic partnerships, we really want to spread this network around the world. Imagine then that food entrepreneurs come to these places, know that they collect quality data. You can't run a good economic model without good data. So if you can go to these places around the world, you can spur food innovation kind of from the ground up. And I think I would really encourage people to reach out to us to make those partnerships a reality.